All right. Okay, this is a hearing before the Assistant Commissioner of the Tennessee Department of Commerce and Insurance Private Protective Services Program to consider the matter of the Department of Commerce and Insurance versus Mr. Tory Pulliam. My name is Tom Stovall, and I have been assigned by the Secretary of State to be the administrative judge at this hearing. I want to state for the record that as we were discussing prior to going on the record, that we've had some miscommunication with our court reporter, but this matter is being recorded by the department, and if the court reporter appears, then she will just pick it up wherever we are, and if she doesn't appear, then we will rely on this, and if a transcript needs to be prepared for this case, then it can be prepared based upon the video record and the audio record. And this has been explained to you, Mr. Pulliam. Is that correct, sir? All right. As the administrative judge in this case, I will hear the matter. I will enter an initial order, send a copy of that order to both parties, who will then have an opportunity to appeal the order to the commissioner before it becomes final. Let the record show that Ms. Robin Ryan, Assistant General Counsel with the Department of Commerce and Insurance, represents the department in this matter. The record show that the respondent, Mr. Tory Pulliam, is present and not represented by counsel. Mr. Pulliam, did you understand that you had a right to have an attorney with you today? You want to pull that mic down so make sure that we all hear you?
Yes, sir.
All right. And you want to proceed without an attorney, is that correct, sir?
Yes, because
right.
my attorney, he's an Arkansas attorney, and he thought that there was something in Arkansas when I explained it to him, but I told him it was Tennessee, Nashville. So.
Okay. All right. The record in this case, I'd like to go through that briefly if I could. The notice of hearing and charges was filed on February the 3rd of 2014. The pre-hearing order was entered by Judge Joyce Safley on February the 11th. And we have two notices of intent to introduce affidavits, one referencing the affidavit of Johnny Welch, the other for the affidavit of Brian Johnson, that was filed by Andrew Simpson, who was an attorney for the department at that time. And we also have the state's witness and exhibit list, which was filed by Mr. Simpson on the 26th of February. And finally, we have an order dated March the 6th of 2014, entered by Judge Safley, who continued this case. And it has been rescheduled for today's date of October the 22nd. All those who, I'm sorry, Ms. Ryan?
There also, just for the record, there was a motion to set it on this date that I filed on August the 5th that should be part of the
It
record.
is, and I apologize. It's right on the front, and I didn't see it. And there is not an order. I don't believe an order was entered. We just...
There was not an order entered, but Judge England was assigned to this case
Yes, she was.
originally and it was on the docket as being assigned on this.
Yes, yes. And Judge England left the employ of our department in September when she was elected to as the city judge for the town of Smyrna, and so the matter was reassigned to me. All right, all those who intend to testify in this matter, would you please raise your right hand? Mr. Pulliam? You solemnly swear or affirm testimony that you're about to give in this matter is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, thank you. All right, Ms. Ryan, do you have an opening statement you want to make? Or?
I do, thank you.
All right. Now, Mr. Pulliam, what I'll do is Ms. Ryan will make a brief opening statement, and then if you like, I'll allow you to make a brief statement, or you can just waive that, and you'll have a full opportunity after after the opening statements. We will hear from the state's witness, and then you'll have an opportunity to ask her any questions that you might have, and then you'll have an opportunity to make your presentation and say whatever you wish. And I know you also told me that you had some documents, so you can make an opening statement, or you can just hold it until your testimony, either one, okay? All right, Ms. Ryan.
Thank you. Let's make sure
All right, you may want to sit down. Do you want to sit? I know you don't like to sit, Ms. Ryan, but
I don't, but I will. All right. This is an issue, Your Honor, concerning a certified trainer certificate. Mr. Pulliam holds such a certificate trainer certificate under the PPS program, and that number is 931378. And he received that certificate in 2010. When he applied for the certification, the proof will show that he included his resume and a certificate from Arkansas Law Enforcement Academy. In his resume, he states that he attended basic police training in Arkansas from July 5th to December 25th, 1998. He also stated in his resume that he received Tennessee Police Officer certification after receiving training in Tennessee in 2000 and 2001. However, the proof will show that Mr. Pulliam never attended the training in Arkansas and that the certificate was forged, and after this discovery, he had to surrender his post-certification with Tennessee in January 2012. In his own statement dated July 19, 2011, the proof will show that Mr. Pulliam states that he is not a certified officer and never submitted any law enforcement certifications. This 1 year after providing the same certificate to the Tennessee Protective Services for his request to become a security guard trainer, you will learn that in his application, Mr. Pulliam has told many false statements on his application for the present certification. Tennessee law requires that all persons wanting to be a trained security officer to train other security officers, they must receive certification. Once that certification is received under the law, it can be revoked or removed if it was secured through fraud or misrepresentation, or when someone knowingly or willfully made a material misstatement in the application. At the end of the hearing today, we ask that Mr. Pulliam's certificate be permanently removed and withdrawn, and that he therefore be required to pay all the court costs associated with this particular hearing.
okay. All right, Mr. Pulliam, did you want to make a brief statement at this point?
Yes, sir.
All right, go ahead.
In order to be a trainer, I understand what the rules are. I did not submit a document for trainer. I submitted my NRA. Now, what was on my resume, that could be true, but it never said I attended basic school. The chief that I had at the time, which I've since then been through the academy, but the chief that I had at the time took me through training and submitted my paperwork to Tennessee for the Housing Authority. You can't hand carry a certificate to a department saying, hey, I'm a certified officer. They don't accept it like that. And this guy's deceased because he was committing crimes and he was going to get convicted of them, and he actually killed himself back in 2004. All of this started in 99. Everything that happened started in 99. That's why the charges against me, there are no charges. Since then, I have submitted applications, and never once they said because of your background. I was charged, but there's no charges now. So I didn't submit a certificate to Commerce and Insurance. I submitted a NRA certificate, which I have here today. I submitted an NRA certificate. That's what you have to be a trainer. You have to go through that school.
All right, thank you, Mr. Pulliam. We'll fully explore this later on this afternoon. So go ahead, Ms. Ryan.
I will call Cody Vest.
Ms. Vest? Yeah, please.
Would you state your full name for the record, please?
Cody Vest.
And your position with the state of Tennessee?
I'm the Executive Director for Private Protective Services.
And how long have you held that position?
10 years.
And in that position as Executive Director, are you familiar with both the license files and the complaint files regarding security guards and regarding certified trainers?
Yes.
And therefore, are you familiar with the license and the complaint file of Mr. Torrey Pulliam?
Yes, I am.
What licenses or registrations does he currently hold?
Right now, Mr. Pulliam holds a certified trainer certification.
Has he had any other licenses or certifications?
Yes, Mr. Pulliam held a armed guard certification.
And what's the status of that armed guard certification?
It has been revoked.
Okay. How long ago was that?
It was revoked April the 7th of 2011.
Okay. When he got this certification as a trainer, what did he have to do to get that certification?
Okay, you send in an application, you have to send in your fees, you have to prove you have a year's experience in the business, and you have to send us in training certificates that prove that you can be a trainer.
And did he provide those documentations for his application?
Yes, ma'am.
And in part of the application, did he include a resume?
Yes, he did.
Okay, do you have a copy of that application with you today?
Yes.
If you would, can you tell me what experience he lists on his resume? And sorry, education, not experience.
Pass this on.
In the education.
In the education, he lists 1998, 2001 Bachelor of Arts in Criminal Justice, 1997 through 1998 Military Police Certification with the United States Army, 1998 through 1999 Arkansas Police Officer Certification, ALETA, Arkansas Law Enforcement Training Academy, 1999-1999 Mississippi Correctional Deputy Training through the MLEOTA Mississippi Law Enforcement Training, 2000 through 2001 Tennessee Police Officer Certification, Tennessee Post Training Academy in Donaldson, Tennessee, 1994 to present Tennessee Armed Private Protective Commission, 1994 to present Tennessee Concealed Carry Permit Holder, 1995 present National Security Management Loss Prevention Instructor Certificate, NSI, 1995 through 1996 Senior NCO Leadership Emergency Management Course with the United States Navy.
Did he provide more than one resume when he applied, or is this a subsequent or previous resume?
I have one resume that we received in October 2010, and then I have another resume that we received on July the 25th, 2011.
And the one in 2010, is that the one you were reading from earlier?
Yes.
Okay. Now, did he say or fill out also an application when he applied?
Yes, for certified trainer.
And in that application, did he indicate whether or not he was a member of the armed services?
Excuse me. Yes. Question number 5, have you ever served in military service?
What was the answer to that question?
No.
Did he also provide information to show you that, contrary to what he said, somehow he had been in military service?
Yes, he did.
Okay. Did he also provide...
I'm sorry, Ms. Ryan, I didn't follow that question. Would you ask that a question?
Sure. Did he provide information besides saying he'd not been military service, did he provide any certification that contradicts that statement?
I do have, he did submit a copy of a card that I believe it said, I'd have to look at it, but it says U.S. Army, his identification card for the military.
So he said he wasn't in the military service, but then he provided you documentation that so he was in the military service.
That's my understanding.
And he said that he had attended training in Arkansas, is that correct?
Yes.
I'm going to show you a copy of the certificate and ask if you could identify it for me.
Hang on, Ms. Ryan. Our court reporter has arrived. What we're going to do is, sir, we've just commenced, but we decided that right now we're using the video recording. But whenever you get set up, you just go ahead and pick up wherever we are. So, Ms. Ryan, why don't you just go ahead and then whenever you're ready, sir, you just start, okay? All right, go ahead, Ms. Ryan.
Thank you. I'm going to show you a copy and ask you if I can identify this.
Yes, ma'am, came in with this application. It's Arkansas Law Enforcement Training Academy, a certificate.
A certificate from the Arkansas Law Enforcement Training Academy? Is that what you said?
Yes,
Okay, what's the date on that certificate?
July the 5th to September the 25th, 1998.
Mark this as exhibit number 1.
What led to this particular complaint?
Excuse me, Ms. Vest, did you say that this document, this was part of his original application, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Ryan.
What led to this particular complaint?
Oh, okay, yes. I did receive an application for Mr. Pulliam to be a contract security company. And he used some of the same documents to apply for the contract security company. I had my staff verify the information that was provided. That is standard practice for a contract security company. And that's when we found that some documents have perhaps been altered or falsified.
From where did you learn this?
I learned it from the Arkansas Police Department.
And what exactly did you learn from the Arkansas Police Department?
They told me that he had not attended any courses, any certification to be a police officer in Arkansas.
Did you get a copy of the list of persons that had attended those courses at the time that he said he attended?
Yes, I received a roster.
And in that roster, do you see his name?
His name was not listed.
Is this a copy of that roster?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
And you checked thoroughly and do not find his name there?
I do not see his name there.
Okay. Then what did you learn after you received this? Did you learn anything further about the authenticity or not?
Yes, we contacted the Arkansas Police Department, and they said that was a falsified document.
What happened after you learned this information?
Well, then we started looking at the certificate that we received for the state of Tennessee post certificate.
What is a Tennessee post certificate?
It's a police officer standard of training. It's another certificate that was submitted with the application.
And did you learn anything about that certificate?
We learned that the certificate was issued by post, but then we informed post of the information we received from Earl Police Department in Arkansas telling us about the falsification or possible falsification of the document.
And do you know what happened to his post certification as a result of this?
The document I saw said that he surrendered his post certificate.
Did you get a copy of the letter that Mr. Pulliam submitted on that?
Yes.
May I approach your Honor? Is this a copy of that document?
Yes, it is.
And what, if you would, read that out loud for us?
Is to Chief Investigator Johnny Welch from Torrey Pulliam, reference post certificate. Sir, per your request, I'm sending you my original post certificate and acknowledge your letter sent by way of certified mail on the 19th December 2011. I am not in law enforcement at this time, and I am relocating as of today, January 9th, 12. I am surrendering this post certificate number 02-260. I hope that I am in compliance of your orders, sir. Thank you in advance, Torrey Pulliam.
Your Honor, I'd like to have this document that as the next exhibit.
Two.
Opened after you learned all this against Mr. Pulliam?
Yes, ma'am.
Based on what?
Falsified documentation.
What part of the law covers this particular allegation we have against him?
You can find the description on 6235-102, chapter definitions, number 4 of a certified trainer. which means any individual certified by the commission as qualified to administer and certified to successful completion of the minimum training requirements prescribed by this chapter for a security guard officer.
And what laws govern about when or when not a certificate can be removed or revoked or withdrawn?
That's going to be in a rule.
Is it not also in the statute?
Yes, it's under 6235-130 for revocation.
And what does it say there?
Sixty-two 130A, the commissioner may take disciplinary action against a licensee, registrant, or an applicant, deny an application for a license or registration, or may suspend, revoke, or refuse to issue or renew any certification, certified trainer license, license or registration card hereunder upon finding that the holder or applicant had, and then it lists 1 through 11.
And what does it say about what would cause a removal of a license after, or a certification after it being granted? What would be the reasons?
Well, number 3, knowingly and willingly making a material misstatement in connection with an application for a license or a registration card.
Anything about fraud or anything else?
Yes, number 2 was practice fraud, deceit, or misrepresentation.
Are there also rules that govern about when a certificate can be removed?
Yes.
And what rules are those?
Okay. Rule 0780-5-2-.11 certified trainer, and that lists everything that a certified trainer would have to do
To what?
to become certified as a certified trainer.
And what rules would govern removal of that certification?
That would be under withdrawal of certification of 0780-5-2-.14, withdrawal of certification.
And what is provided under that rule as the reasons to have a certification removed?
Well, A, has violated any provision of the act or this chapter. B, has become certified through fraud or misrepresentation.
So if
B.
someone had a fraudulent application or significantly misrepresented themselves in an application, then this law, or this rule and the laws provide that that application can be taken back, is that correct?
Revoked,
Revoked.
yes.
Did you also get copies of letters that Mr. Pulliam wrote or thing to have wrote to the Earl Police Department?
Yes, I remember a letter.
And let me ask you if you can identify this for me. Have copies of those in your files?
Yes, I do.
What does it say on that page, and at the date, if you would, or what does Mr. Pulliam say?
Okay, this is to Earl Police Department in Earl, Arkansas. It says it's a statement named Tory Pulliam. Do you wish for me to read this?
Please.
On 7/19/2011, at approximately 1:15 p.m., I was contacted by Chief W. Voiles in reference to a problem with some paperwork that was derogatory and invalid. I immediately arrived at the Earl Police Department and spoke with Chief Voiles and Major Davis concerning this matter, at which time the mayor, Otis Davis, directed me to resolve the matter with Arkansas Law Enforcement Standards and Chief Deputy Robert Blair of the Crittenden County Sheriff's Department. Chief Voiles and I arrived at the Crittenden County Sheriff's Department at 2:20 p.m. and discussed the matter, at which time it was explained to Chief Blair that my file was copied from the Sunset Police in the year 2000 and in the dead file to Turrent Police Department. I explained to Chief Robert Blair that I am were never certified as a police officer in the state of Arkansas, and also that I was employed in Sunset, Arkansas under the command of Chief Charles Fowler, and there was issues with Arkansas law enforcement standards, which time I resigned for that reason. I placed an employment application with the Turrent Police Department on January 5th, 2011, and had the clerk, Ms. Felicia Williams, to copy my old file, and that was with both departments, Turret Police Department, PD, and Summit PD. I also talked to Standards several times with Chief Voyles, and we never submitted any Arkansas law enforcement certificates because I am not a certified officer, and I understand that you must receive a class and transcript to be certified.
Let me stop you there. What's the date on that document? Is there a date?
At the date at the top of the letter, correspondence, the 8/1/2011.
And what was the date he
The
applied?
the other date on here says 7/19/2011.
And what was the date he applied for his application in the first place?
10/21/2010.
So a year before, in his resume, he did say he was certified as an Arkansas police officer. In his resume, I think you said.
Yes, that's in his resume.
Arkansas Peace Officer certification.
Yes, ma'am.
And he provided also a copy of that certificate, is that correct?
Yes.
But now he is saying in this document he never has been certified, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When this complaint was opened, was it sent to Mr. Pulliam for him to address the severe contradictions?
All complaints are sent from our office to the respondent. Yes, ma'am.
Do your records show that he ever made any attempt to say why, at one point he said he was certified in a resume and he applied to you and provided certification, and later on he is not
No, ma'am, I haven't heard from Mr. Pulliam.
at all?
Not to my recollection, no, ma'am.
So there's nothing in your file to show what could have caused this problem or what issue, if it was a mistake or anything? Nothing.
I don't have anything.
Now, we talked earlier about the complaint file. Are all these documents also part of your complaint file against Mr. Pulliam?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to show you a document and ask you if you can identify it for me.
Yes, ma'am, this is the actual complaint that a copy of it at least, that we had sent up to the attorney and sent out to Mr. Pulliam.
Thank you. Your Honor, I would like to have the copy of the complaint.
Collective Exhibit number 3. Does this include, Ms. Vest, does this include the, does, the application and the resume and
Yes,
all those
sir.
documents that you
What
were
we were
referring
talking-
to, right?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
I also would like to show you this and ask if you can identify this document. I have ones here.
Actually, there's quite a few documents here, but this is a fax transmittal, yes, that was sent to my attention from Johnny Welch from the Post Commission.
And this includes what?
This includes the roster from Arkansas, the date in question, and whether Mr. Pulliam attended the classes. It also has his resume. Let me go back and look at that just a second. It has his resume that was sent in 2010. It has copies of various licenses, like his driver's license, handgun carry permit license, guard card, several other different documents, copies. Has copies of his Armed Forces of the United States U.S. Army. Has a certificate for the National Rifle Association, and then there are some emails back and forth. There's a letter from the Pulliam Handgun Safety School, and here's where we certified copy. A document, Department of the Army Certification of Training. Here's another letter from the Pulliam Handgun School, letter of recommendation from Mr. Pulliam, from Johnny Pulliam Sr. And then we have the actual application that was made by Mr. Pulliam for a certified trainer. Here is a copy of the Peace Officer Standards and Training Commission, which is what we refer to as
Is
POST.
that Tennessee? Peace Officer in Training in Tennessee?
State of Tennessee, yes, ma'am. Looks like there's actually two of them. Then here's looks like another email to post from Mr. Pulliam. Here's another certificate for the National Rifle Association for pistol certification. Honorable discharge from the Army National Guard, Arkansas Law Enforcement Training Academy.
Is this a copy then of what would have been kept in his application file, which is mostly separate, a different documentation than the complaint file?
Yes, ma'am, is what we would have used.
Thank you. I'd like to have this as the next exhibit on it.
Or
And again, is this a copy of the letter that you were referencing to from Mr. Pulliam, from the Earl Police Department?
Yes, it's looks like it's a continuation of that letter that I was reading, and it's another one that's dated 7/27. The one I was reading from was July the 19th, 2011. This is July the 20th of 2011.
And the one on July 19th, is that wherein he says he was never certified as?
Ma'am.
Thank you. Your Honor, I'd like to have this as the next exhibit. Ms. Vest, without the certification from Arkansas, would he have been able to get his certified trainer license here?
With proper documentation, yes, ma'am.
So it wasn't dependent upon this. So he could have provided other information. He did not have to provide Arkansas certification or training from Arkansas in order to get this license.
No, ma'am, he did not.
What is the status of his license now, or his certificate now? When is it set to expire?
The certified trainer is set to expire on 10/31/2014.
So it would normally expire this month.
At the end of the month, yes.
And is it the practice that there's an automatic renewal period for this certification, or does someone have to reapply or provide additional documentation?
No, Mr. Pulliam would have received a renewal notice 3 months in advance of his expiration date. He would have had to 10/31/14, and at that particular time, his license would have expired on 10/30, well, actually November the 1st, 14. He could not operate, but he has a 3 months grace period to get back into compliance.
So what we have today is that if this certificate is not withdrawn, he would then be allowed to reapply and continue, even though technically he provided false information to get the certificate in the first place. If it is not withdrawn, he could renew.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. And even though it would appear that he provided false information to get the certificate in the first place.
I would have to renew this license, yes.
You don't have a choice in the matter.
Right.
There's no additional education or additional training that someone has to show in order to get their certificate renewed?
No.
Thank you. I have nothing further for this witness.
before I let Mr. Pulliam ask, do you have questions for Ms. Best?
Yes.
Okay, before I let you ask, let me just get straight here, what your testimony is. So, Mr. Pulliam applied in, what was the date of his initial application for?
10/21/2010.
October of 2010, for the certificate for the certified trainer.
Correct.
And in that application, he enclosed, he attached a resume that indicated that he had had the Arkansas certification, as well as the certification from the Tennessee Post Commission. And then when he, at a later date, he applied for a different certification as a contract security company, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And what was the approximate date of that? It may not matter.
I don't have that particular
Right.
file with me.
But anyway, and he, I believe you testified that he submitted some of the same information with that application.
Yes, sir, and I told you false. I do have that application
Okay.
right here with me. I'm sorry.
And what was the date on that?
The date of that application is February the 7th, 2014.
February the 7th
7th, yes,
of
sir.
2014.
Mhm.
All right, and then did he submit some of the same information with that application that's in question here?
Yes, sir.
And so then when you began, when the department begins to check out this application, that is when you discovered the discrepancy? I was a little hazy on that. Or did a complaint come in?
Oh, okay, maybe I can clear that up just a little bit there. We got the certified trainer application in. There was a letter, there was documentation in it, and there was one from Mr. Pulliam's father, said he worked for the company. We do the checking on that. Mr. Pulliam's been in the business for quite a while there. Then, whenever we got there was a complaint where he was operating a contract security company without a license, and that's what started the revocation of his armed license. So his accounts were already flagged. Well, then we got the application to be a contract security company, and we had the documents in it that were the same as the other ones. But what Hassan, I did receive a letter with his application from the chief that said he had worked from this date to that date in Arkansas. Well, when we picked up the new application and we called the human resources, that's when we found out that he was not a police officer, and that's what started the whole investigation.
All right, so is it fair to say then that you went, when he applied in 2014 for the contract security company certification, that you went further in checking out his background than you did when he applied back in 2010?
Yes, sir. For a contract security company, you have to have 3 years' experience, so it does take some more investigating than it does certified trainers, just a year and a certificate.
Okay, so then anyway, as you go back and begin to check this out, and you find out a potential problem with whether or not he had been a police officer, and again, just tell me if I'm wrong, this is how I understand you're telling me, that as you go back up the chain, then you find out that, in fact, he did not have the Arkansas certificate, Law Enforcement Training Academy certificate.
Yes, sir. That's when we found that out. We were started backwards.
And then at some point, all right, he surrendered his Tennessee post certificate in January of 12. But you all were not made aware of that at the time.
At the time, I was not. No, sir.
And the surrender of the Tennessee certificate was, from looking at the documents, based partially on, am I correct, was based partially on the fact that he didn't have, he had told the Tennessee Post Commission that he had the Arkansas training when in fact he didn't.
Your
What-
Honor, sorry, if I might interrupt.
Please.
There are 2 affidavits that will be part of my
Oh, okay,
case
okay.
and include that information
All
in
right.
those affidavits.
Okay, okay. So, but you testified also something about military background, was he or wasn't he? Is that relevant, or are we just talking about the training?
It's part of the application, Judge. On the application, on the contract security company, the trainer application, they did ask, have you been in the military?
Right.
He answered no, but yet he provided me with documents that said he had been. Well, that put up another red flag.
All right, okay. Now, Mr. Pulliam, if you have questions for Ms. Vest,
Yes.
go ahead.
Am I required to be a police officer to get my certified trainer's license?
No, you're not.
Okay. And when we put in this application, I did not submit a post certification from Arkansas because that was not needed. The only thing that was needed, right, was the verification of experience and the NRA certificate, right?
You submitted your resume that had it on there, yes, sir.
But you said that earlier you said that I submitted a post, and I have all of my credentials right here saying that
I'm going to
I've
object
been a
to,
police officer.
I'm going to object to him testifying. If he's got a question for Ms. Vest.
You'll have an opportunity to testify
Okay.
in a moment, Ms. Pulliam. Just ask her question.
Okay, so was a post certificate or being law enforcement relevant in any way to being a trainer?
Yes, we will use those post certificates in the training, in the NRA certificates as well. Yes, we will.
But
It's not a requirement, no,
right.
sir.
But the relevant documents needed to be a trainer is the experience with Pulliam handgun safety and the NRA school in which I went to school for, right? That's what's needed, right?
But what's needed is a year of experience. And maybe I can clear that up a little bit as well. Yes, we did receive a letter from Mr. Pulliam's father. It is not practice in our office that we usually take it from a family member. We want to know, we want to have proof that you work there. If you had submitted the W-2 forms, I would have accepted those if it said you'd worked there for a year. But I had a letter from a family member, and I had the resume, and that's what started the whole thing.
Didn't you call Mr. Johnny Pulliam yourself?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Be all, Judge.
Go ahead, Ms. Ryan.
Ms. Vest, is not a resume one of the requirements for the application pursuant to your rules, that they must provide a resume?
It says supply resume, yes, ma'am.
And it isn't also a requirement that the information given to you not be false or not be fraudulent or not be misrepresentations? Is that not also that they need to be truthful? That the documents presented
Yes,
to you?
ma'am. These are
And-
notarized statements, yes,
and-
ma'am.
And what he provided to you was a resume saying he was certified in Arkansas. Is that right?
Yes, he did.
And he also provided a certificate from Arkansas saying he was certified.
Yes, he did.
And while that wasn't required to get the job, it was part of his resume and part of his statement to the state as the reasons why he should get qualified. Is that right?
Correct.
And they turned out to be false entirely.
Yes, ma'am.
And the law basically says if you provide false misrepresentation or fraudulent misrepresentation in your application, the certification can be withdrawn. Is that what your law provides?
Yes,
Thank you.
yes.
Thank you, Ms. Vest.
Your Honor, the next two witnesses I have are here by affidavit. Does the court want the affidavits read into the record, or?
Why don't we go ahead and read those into the record? They're not very long, and I think that it would help us if you would just go ahead and read those in.
Very well, be happy to. The first affidavit is the affidavit of Brian Johnson. I, Brian Johnson, as the Standards Specialist for the Arkansas Office of Law Enforcement Standards, first being duly sworn, state as follows. Number one, excuse me, Your Honor, let me give him a copy so he can follow along.
All right,
in
thank
case
you,
he doesn't
thank
have
you.
to. Number one, I am over the age of 18 and I have personal knowledge of the information contained in this affidavit. Number two, I am employed by the State of Arkansas Office of Law Enforcement Standards and work in the capacity of a standard specialist. Number three, I have firsthand knowledge of the aforementioned case concerning Mr. Troy L. Pulliam in regards to his alleged certification and training with the State of Arkansas Law Enforcement Training Academy, Arkansas Peace Officer Certification. Number four, in or around July of 2011, the state of Tennessee inquired about Mr. Pulliam's law enforcement training and certification from the state of Arkansas. After reviewing pertinent documents relating to Mr. Pulliam's alleged training and certification, It was discovered that Mr. Pulliam did not receive or attend such Arkansas Law Enforcement Training Academy in 1998 and was not in attendance for such classes for certification between the dates of July 1998 and September 1998. Further, Mr. Pulliam provided the Tennessee Post Commission documents which have been forged, indicating that Mr. Pulliam had previously received law enforcement training from the state of Arkansas. Attachment provided herein. Number 5, to my knowledge, Mr. Pulliam has not received and or attended any and all Arkansas law enforcement training or certification, and any such certificate proposed by Mr. Pulliam which affirms his attendance of such training certification is not considered valid by the state of Arkansas. Number 6 is blank. Further, affiant saith not, signed by Brian A. Johnson, Standard Specialist, Arkansas Office of Law Enforcement Standards, State of Arkansas, County of Saline, sworn and subscribed before me the 4th day of March 2014, Susan Miller, Notary Public, whose commission expires 3/7 of 14. Attached to that is a copy of the certification and the attendance records.
Of those documents, do you have a signed copy that you're going to put in the record?
I thought the signed copy was filed. What I have is a copy of the signed copy.
No, the copy of the affidavit that I have is not signed.
Sorry.
And- or notarized. So I need, if I could have, this will be exhibit number 5.
Next affidavit, Your Honor, is the affidavit of Mr. Johnny Welch.
I do not. All right, this will be exhibit number 6.
I will read that affidavit into the record as well.
Thank you.
I, Johnny Welch, as the Chief Investigator for Tennessee Post Commission, first being duly sworn, states as follows. Number 1, I am over the age of 18 and have personal knowledge of the information contained in this affidavit. Number 2, I am employed by the state of Tennessee, Tennessee Post Commission, and work in the capacity of a chief investigator. Number 3, I have first-hand knowledge of the aforementioned case concerning Mr. Tony L. Pulliam in regards to his alleged certification and training with the State of Arkansas Law Enforcement Training Academy, Arkansas Peace Officer Certification, and subsequent Tennessee Post certification. Number 4, in or around July 2011, the Tennessee Post Commission was notified by Mr. Brian Johnson, a standard specialist from the Arkansas Post, that Tori L. Pulliam, who was issued a Tennessee Post certificate number 02-260 on May 3, 2002, had presented a forged document indicating that Mr. Pulliam had previously been trained and had received certification from the Arkansas Post Commission. Number 5, based on Mr. Johnson's statements and statements from Mr. Pulliam given to the Earl Police Department, Earl, Arkansas, it was apparent that Mr. Pulliam had misrepresented and fraudulently given documents to the State of Tennessee Post Commission in an attempt to obtain certification from the Tennessee Post Commission. Number 6, as such, the Tennessee Post Commission initiated proceedings against Mr. Pulliam to decertify his law enforcement certification, which resulted in Mr. Pulliam voluntarily surrendering his certificate on or about January 9, 2012, a copy of which is attached herein. Further, affiant saith not, and that is signed by Johnny Welch, Chief Investigator, Tennessee Post Commission, notarized State of Tennessee, County of Davidson, sworn to and subscribed before me, the Notary Public, on the 26th day of February 2014, Gay Ray, whose commission expires 7/13 of 2017, and attached to that is a copy of the letter in question that is to Chief Investigator Johnny Welch, dated January 9th of 2012. That completes the state's proof, Your Honor.
Now, Mr. Pulliam, you'll have an opportunity to say anything you wish on your behalf, and then after you've finished, Ms. Ryan may have some questions for you, and I may have some questions for you as well. Go ahead, sir.
Well, first of all of these charges are dismissed against me. I have submitted an application to the state for several licenses in which I didn't get any kind of letters back on it. Only one stating that I didn't submit proof of training or proof of experience, which it was proof because the people that actually wrote the letters stated that they called. Secondly, all of the Arkansas Standard stuff has nothing to do with this. That case is dead and gone. Miss Vest stated that 2014 I submitted an application. Why would I submit an application if you already got charges against me stating that I have a post certificate from Arkansas? That's not true. I have every document that I sent them right here, right now. I don't understand. I've never had any problem with Ms. Vest. I dealt with the attorney for counsel here that was here previously, and he told me just to come here and state whatever I had to state, and he said that
Objection
it
to
would
hearsay,
probably-
Your Honor. I have no idea I'm assuming he means Mr. Simpson, but I have not had a conversation with Mr. Simpson. He's not here to testify.
Mr. Pulliam, just tell us, look, this case, Boyle, is at least the state's allegation is very simple. And the allegation is that when you filed your application for the certified trainer, that you included with that a resume that indicated that you had were certified, that you had gone to the Arkansas Law Enforcement Training Academy and attached a certification, and in addition to the resume, that you included the certificate itself, and that those two items are false.
I didn't
That's what
submit-
this whole case is
Yeah,
about.
I did not submit a Arkansas Post a letter, certificate with my trainer's license. It's not needed. When I did that, my dad said, the only thing you need is your NRA and a letter from me. He said, that's all you need. And that's all I sent because he faxed it for me. My dad faxed that. He's been in business for 20
And
years.
object to what his dad did. Again, that's hearsay. His dad's not here for me to question.
All right.
But that's hearsay saying that I sent that certificate. I was certified as a reserve officer. Certified she said I wasn't a police officer. I got paperwork document that I was a police officer. Earl Police Department rehired me after all of this. She said that when I talked to Ms. Vest, she was saying something about my background, but my background clear. My background is clear. I don't have any charges pending or any charges against me. So I don't think that my license should be revoked. If I have to reapply for it, I will do that. But I'm not going to make a dishonest statement up under my dad's name. Whatever happened with Arkansas happened with Arkansas. But that has nothing to do with my trainer's license. And it's not right. It's not right. At the end of the day, it's not right. I'll take whatever punishment that I have to take, but revoking my trainer's license, I went through the NRA school for the purpose of running Pulliam Handgun Safety School. For that purpose, to train security officers. I've been successful at it. I haven't had any problems at it. That's the way I eat. That's how I eat. Now, you know, as far as all of this has been sent to me. I never dealt with this counselor here. I've never dealt with her. I only spoke with her a week ago where she was very nasty with me. And I told her, I'm not a criminal. Don't treat me like a criminal. I'm just only asking you to continue this so I can actually get the chief up here, the chief of police, get my dad up here, and a reputable attorney up here from Davidson County. You know, and no, I'm not going to continue this. You don't treat people like that. The thing is, I'm a trainer. I'm trying to continue to be a trainer. I'm not trying to make any risk.
Hang on a minute, Ms. Pulliam.
Your Honor,
Ms. Ryan, you better respond to this.
I'm going to
because
respond to
did he-
that.
Did he call you and ask for continuance?
no, he
to
did
get an
not.
attorney?
He did not call and ask me for continuance. He
'Cause you know
called and
that's
told.
my decision, not yours.
That's correct. It is not my decision. He would have had to file it, and I told him I did. We talked about the hearing set for today. He did not ask for continuance today. He did not tell me he needed to get an attorney. He did not tell me he needed to get his father here. None of this was told to me on the telephone call. None. He actually called and spoke to Miss Margaret. Margaret, did he talk to you about a continuance? I'm sorry. He talked to her, and then the call was transferred to me, and he did not ask me for that. And I would have told him that he would have had to file a motion and ask for continuance before the APD, because it's not up to me.
That's not true. I'm not gonna take that one line down. That's not true. She told me that she would tell the judge that she's not gonna continue it. I had my father present when she said it, right there in the office.
There
That's
was-
what she told me. That is what she told me.
Ms. Pulliam,
That's what she said.
well, now,
I mean, it's just,
Ms. Pulliam, now wait a minute. Somebody here is not telling the truth. All right? And what you're doing, you're accusing Ms. Ryan, who is a licensed attorney, as an officer of the court, for misrepresenting, basically telling me a falsehood. That's what you're accusing her of doing.
listen, Your Honor, with all due respect, I wouldn't drive 268 miles to sit here and tell you a lie about trying to continue this. She told me that she would not. She said that she would talk to the judge and she would not continue it. That's what the whole heated argument was about on the phone. I talked to her assistant. Her assistant said, well, it would be in your best interest to be there. That's what she said, her assistant.
He did not ask me for continuance, Your Honor. And he wouldn't have asked me for continuance in any event. We talked about the hearing today and how it had been continued and set for today after the continuance in March that was at his request in March. That was the crux of the conversation. And I did tell him that he needed to be here today and that the hearing was going forward today. I don't think our conversation was more than a minute or two long, and it was after I asked our assistant to call to make sure he was aware of the hearing today and the time and place for that hearing. Oh, it did not say and did not tell him I wouldn't grant a continuance. I have no power to do that. If he had asked me how he gets a continuance, I would have told him, but he didn't, that he has to ask the judge for a continuance, not me. But he did not. We did talk about the previous continuance, Your Honor, that it was originally set for March, and I asked him about that, and he had asked for that continuance in March. And then I said, and then I filed this notice to have it heard today.
All right. Ms. Ryan, do you have any questions? I want to get off this point right now. Take about a 5-minute recess, and we're going to come back. I want everybody to cool down here a little bit. And then, Ms. Ryan, if you have questions for Mr. Pulliam about his application, all right? Now, Mr. Pulliam, you keep referring to these documents. What documents are you talking about?
NRA, well, you're saying as far as these affidavits or whatnot, I talked to the state of Arkansas. Arkansas said everything that they're talking about the 14th when I submitted a application for security company, application for investigation company.
Mr. Pulliam, this case, we're going to take a recess, and I'm going to ask you this question, and we're going to come back in. I want you to respond to me, all right? This case is very, 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 very simple.
Right.
This came in with your application. I mean, how did they get it?
I didn't send that with my application. They got that with the case about Arkansas and Post. That's how they got that. I would have no reason to submit that, Judge, with that. I would have no reason. It's clear and cut on the application that you have to have a training from NRA somewhere to be an instructor, and the experience I got from the school helping my dad.
Did
That's
you
pretty
submit-
much it.
What about the resume?
The resume was submitted because I've been a police officer that whole time. I've got proof right here. I wasn't a academy graduate, but I went through training from the department training, and that's it. That's what I'm telling you. I've got letters. I've got everything I need.
Okay, let's take a very short recess, and we're going to come back in, and Ms. Ryan may have some questions for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Police officer certification. Did you not?
Yes, it was a cert. It did not tell you what kind of certification. It wasn't police officer.
It said Arkansas Peace Officer Certification
It
from
was-
the Law Enforcement Training Academy. Did it not? Did you not say that?
Yes, I did.
And did not you also say in your letter from to the Earl Police Department that you are not certified and never have been certified, and you've never submitted any Arkansas law enforcement certification because you're not certified? Did
Yes,
you not
as
say that?
as a full-time police officer.
Did
As
you
a
say-
full-time.
And where did you say full-time police officer, either in your resume or in your statement?
It wasn't intentional. As a police officer, I was certified, not a full-time police officer. You got post-certified and you have part-time too. I've never had to put that on a resume before. If you're a police officer, you was a police officer.
Do not say that I also talked to Standards several times. We never submitted any Arkansas law enforcement certifications because I'm not a certified officer, and I understand you must receive a class and transcript to be certified. Did you not say that?
Yes, as a full-time police officer.
Did you also not say in the same document, I understand the penalty for such offenses. I believe someone's trying to sabotage me. Did you not say that?
And that's true. I have a letter right here from another police department telling that they did not receive that from me. They pulled it from a dead file.
Did you not say in your resume that you were certified as an Arkansas peace officer?
Ma'am, again.
Did you say that?
Again, will you give me a chance to answer you, please?
Answer the question, Mr. Pulliam.
Okay. No, I never said full-time police officer. As a police officer, yes. Not full-time. I didn't distinguish the two.
Mr. Pulliam, in your education portion of your resume, you said education 1998 to 1999 Arkansas Peace Officer Certification. Did you not say that in your resume under education?
I did as a part-time police officer. Again, yes, I did.
Did not Arkansas say you're not certified at all? Isn't that what Mr. Johnson said?
As a police officer, I am certified as a part-time officer. He's saying as a full-time officer. He did not distinguish. He did not distinguish.
Mr. Pulliam, in the documentation from Mr. Johnson, nowhere does it talk about being part-time or full-time. What Mr. Johnson says in his, and I'm going to ask you about this, after reviewing pertinent documents relating to Mr. Pulliam's alleged training and certification, it was discovered that Mr. Pulliam did not receive or attend such Arkansas law enforcement training in 1998 and was not in attendance for such classes for certifications between the dates of July 1998 and September 1998. Are you saying he's lying?
Listen, the only
I'm
thing-
asking you, are you saying
Ma'am,
he's lying?
Ma'am, no. The only thing I'm saying is that there's a distinguish. They have part-time and full-time. At the time, that's why I went to court. At the time, they did not distinguish it. That's why the charges were dismissed against me. They did not distinguish that. I brought all the paperwork that I brought today to court with me on criminal charges. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You're not
Did you
giving
attend
me a
the
chance.
classes that you said you attended in your
Listen,
resume?
I attended part-time classes
Did you
only.
attend the classes you said in the resume where you attended? Did you attend?
I attended part-time.
Why
That's what
is
I
it-
put in there. That's what I wanted them to know, not full-time. I didn't distinguish which one. I never distinguished which one.
Why is it that the Arkansas State has a letter and has a certificate or has a list of the people who attended and your name is not in that list?
Because there was a full-time academy class, and I wasn't even employed at the time. I wasn't employed there at the time. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I have my documentation right here if you want to see it.
Did you not also, in your application, state that you are not a member or never have been a member of the military service?
Active duty military. That's what most of the time when you put in an application, they say active duty. I've only been a reservist. That's a difference. That's a difference. National Guard, full-time Army. I didn't know which one they meant. I have my certificate of service for the National Guard, not for the active duty Army.
The question on on the application says, have you ever served in military service? To which you responded, no.
That's why I responded no, because I thought they were saying active duty. They were meaning active duty Army. You don't get credit for National Guard.
So you're saying that the distinction in all of it is someone else's fault because you thought they meant active duty, you said no, so therefore you weren't telling a mistruth there. Is that right? And that the Arkansas Peace Training Certificate, that they've got it all mistaken because somehow you attended part-time, not full-time, and so the application and the certificate that they have stated is forged is not forged, and that somebody's sabotaging you? Is that what you're saying? This is all someone else's fault?
Listen, again, all of this stuff was submitted. I couldn't submit the paperwork myself. I could not. You cannot go to a department and submit paperwork yourself. You can't do that. There's no department in Arkansas where you can walk up and submit your own paperwork. The first thing a chief does is verify the dates. They were sending me to a full-time academy. That's why they dismissed the charges. That's the reason why.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Pulliam, this exhibit number 1, which is the Arkansas Law Enforcement Training Academy, that certificate that indicates that you completed the basic class, and it's dated July 5. No, excuse me. It's said that you took the course from July 5 to September 25, 1998. Are you familiar? Have you seen this?
Yeah, they sent it to me. I had it in court when they dismissed the charges against me.
Who sent this to you?
The standards.
The Arkansas?
Yes, when we went to court, the
Where did
attorney-
it come from?
It came from the attorney. The attorney got it from Standards. Standards got it from Tennessee Post. Tennessee Post got it from the chief in Arkansas. That was the chief at the time when I started Memphis Housing. I never submitted it myself. That's what I'm constantly telling them. I can't go and
Who
submit
put your name
anything.
on it?
That's what I'm telling you. The chief of police, that was my chief when I started in law enforcement. When I left there and went to Memphis Housing Police, I went to Memphis Housing Police. They said, we're going to call your old department. At the time, Charles Fowler, which is named on their roster for 98C, he sent in documentation that I was a police officer. That's the understanding that I got. They said if you had 500 hours of law enforcement, you can be a police officer and challenge the post test. So I studied and challenged the post test. I never once hand carried anything to that department, Memphis Housing, and nobody's given them a letter saying that I have. They came from my chief, who is now deceased, that was in trouble with Standards, was in trouble with the Memphis Police
I'm
Department.
going to object to
and
that,
Tennessee.
Your Honor.
Mr. Pulliam, do you have you keep talking about your documents, then I'll let you show them to me in a moment, but on your resume that you submitted with your application, you say education, Miss Ryan asked you about it, 1998, 1999, Arkansas Peace Officer Certification. Now, what are you referring to there?
The peace officer would be reserve and your radar and
Is
LiDAR.
there a certification for that?
Yes. Radar and LiDAR.
Do you have that?
Yes. Yes.
You have that with you?
Yes. I have my documentation of training from the peace officers stating what dates, stating the dates and the time that I was a police officer.
No, I'm not, I'm talking about the training academy and the certification. Do you have that?
No, I don't have any training.
Well, what I'm-
I don't
Mr.
have it
Pulliam.
with me. I got training academies.
Mr. Pulliam, I'm asking you. It's a very simple question. When you put on your resume that you had a Arkansas Peace Officer certification, okay? What are you referring to?
I'm referring to the training that I had as a reserve of working for that department.
Not this.
No, not that. I didn't submit that. That's the thing that I went through in court. I didn't. The judge asked, "Did you submit this?" He said,
Objection.
I'm trying to finish telling you."
Well, let me see what documentation. Have you seen any of these documents, Mr.
No,
Ryan?
they haven't.
Hang on.
It clearly tells you what dates that I started to get off. And that's what you, when you start.
All right, Ms. Ryan, Ms. Ryan, I think you need, step back, please, sir. Would you, you're going to have an opportunity to look at this and see whether or not it, all right, Ms. Ryan, you want to take a look at these documents and then we'll discuss it then, but I want, you obviously need to take a look at this. Okay? Take a seat, Mr. Pulliam.
Dates of chief life. That statement's a life from the chief. This is a life.
Ryan, do y'all need to go in another room and sit so you can talk? I mean,
No, I think we're okay.
Okay, no, that's fine.
Unless the court wants to do that, I think we're okay.
All right.
Your Honor, we did review these documents. I had them reviewed with the director, Ms. Vest, and with the attorney for the program, Mr. Scudder. Nothing in here changes or contradicts anything we have, except there is a statement from the state of Arkansas saying that he's a full-time officer, although he has indicated that he never has been a full-time officer, at least that's what he said earlier. Nothing to contradict or to support or unsupport the fact that he did say that he was Arkansas Peace Officer Certification from the Arkansas Law Enforcement Training Academy, which is what he has in his resume. I don't have anything to contradict or to say that that somehow is based something different or anything. It doesn't change. None of these documents change anything as far as they could tell.
All right, Mr. Pulliam, where are those documents?
Right here.
Mr. Pulliam, show me in there what document or documents you believe when you when you answered the question, or excuse me, on your resume when you are referring to the peace officer certification and the Alita Arkansas Law Enforcement Training Academy. Show me what documents in that packet you are basing that on.
Well, basically on
Miss,
on just being service up there, and you're sworn.
go back. Do you have any documents that substantiate the claim on your resume? That's the question I'm asking you.
Nothing other than being sworn.
Okay. All right.
As a
Okay.
certified
Okay.
police officer.
Okay. I'm with you. Okay. Okay. Where were we? Ms. Ryan, did you have other questions for Mr.? We kind of got off track a little bit. Did you have any other questions for Ms. Pulliam?
Yeah, I just have a question. I think you said earlier he was only ever part-time and never full-time, but he has a document that now says he was full-time, so what is the truth and what is not the truth? I mean, I don't know.
In order, I guess you don't know because you don't work in Arkansas. In order to be a full-time police officer, you're a sworn full-time police officer at some time. But after your time is up and you hadn't received your full-time commission, you go back to part-time. So they never distinguish part-time 1, part-time 2, or full-time. They never distinguish that. But out there, if you receive training from your chief, you're certified in order to be on the streets. They don't just throw you out on the streets. You might receive some internal training, but that goes to Alita. That goes to the Standard and Training Commission. I've been there since the 90s, back and forth, since the 90s, back and forth, working. You know, no background problems. Training I receive enough to stay aboard.
All right. Well, Mr. Pulliam, this is the problem I'm having here. Okay, I'm trying to be very candid with you. You seem like a very intelligent guy, and you've obviously been in law enforcement for 20 some odd years, and I assume some military background. And you seem to know exactly what you're talking about with how you're commissioned, how you're not commissioned, sworn officer, not sworn officer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm having trouble understanding how this application could have been submitted with with statements on your resume that are false. That's what I'm having trouble understanding here.
I'm not good with resumes. I'm not. I don't do resumes, which my resume, I always have someone to do it. But I tell them what I need in my resume. Okay, I'm a law enforcement officer from here to here. I'm a trainer from here to here. I'm an armed security guard from here to here. But what I'm trying to say is this. I understand where you're saying. But if you work for a department, that chief is actually able to grant you commission. He's able to grant you commission. Now, as far as submitting there's no reason to submit it. I have a transcript. No reason to submit a document. They're saying that I submitted a document for my trainer's license, and Your Honor, I didn't. I had to fight for myself for the criminal charges, for the Alita stuff, and I did succeed and get through it. But I didn't submit, it's not needed. Why would I submit that document for a trainer's
What,
license?
I'm almost afraid to ask this question. What criminal charges are you talking about?
Well, this is the thing. The whole post thing didn't start. She stated up under oath that it started here. It didn't start here. It started in Arkansas and went to Tennessee Post. They got a copy of that. They got a copy of that right now. Right now, there's a civil case going on for the investigator because the investigator called Tennessee Post, and Tennessee Post Intel saw the credentials that I had and called Commerce and Insurance. That's not the way it happened. That's the only thing. My only problem is what they're saying, how it happened and the way it happened and all that. Okay, if all I'm asking for is my life back, to move forward and to go on. If I have to fill out another application, Your Honor, I'm not out here causing malice intentionally. I'm not out here doing that, because if it was, I would be behind bars right now. You know, but all I'm trying to do is move forward. If I made a mistake or a misstatement or had somebody to do my resume, I'll take the fall for that. But I did not send a Arkansas Post document with my trainer's application. It was not needed. I only needed three things. That's my money order, the application itself, and my dad's letter, which she called, the commissioner called and asked him, had I been working for him? And I knew that what I needed, because my dad said, look, this is what you need.
All right, okay.
I
Ms.
have a-
Ryan, you seem like you want to say something.
I certainly do. Now, you said it earlier, Mr. Pulliam, that you don't do your own resumes, but so someone else did that resume for you?
I'm not, when
Let
it
me
comes
just
to,
ask you a question. Did you do that resume?
I didn't type up that resume myself. No, I didn't.
But you provided the information.
I told the young lady over the phone what I needed
And you-
in my resume.
And so you told her what you needed it to say was that you had certification from the Arkansas
No.
law. And you told her what you needed to say then, that you had certification from the Arkansas Law Enforcement Academy,
Not word
and-
for word. I told her
that you had the education from, what you say in your resume, that you had education from 1998 to 1999 from the Arkansas Law Enforcement Training Academy, Arkansas Peace Officer Certification. Did you tell her to put that in there?
did not say put that in there. I told
Okay.
her when I worked as a
Okay,
police
let me-
officer, as a
Okay.
certified
In
officer.
2011, you had a subsequent resume that you presented that we have a copy of. That was in 2011, where the last statement, I'll show you this, from 001 of 2011 to the present, Earl Police Department. And in that document, under education, you also say Arkansas Police Office Certification, Arkansas Law Enforcement Training Academy, and you have it in your 2011 resume. Want to see that?
I understand what you're saying.
It's there again, isn't it?
Okay.
Okay, so, first resume, somebody got it wrong. Second resume, did you do the second resume?
Ma'am.
Did you?
No,
do-
no, I didn't.
Well,
No, I didn't.
did you stop them and say, hey, that's
Yes.
not true?
I tell them, you're
Did you stop them and
certified,
say this was not
you're
true?
certified through Alita if you're a police officer
Did
regardless.
you give them this information so that
No.
it says 1998 to 2099, Arkansas Peace Officer Certification, Arkansas Law Enforcement Training Academy? Did you say that?
As
Did you say
a
that?
part-timer, yes, as a
Does it say
part-timer.
part-time in education?
But it doesn't say
All right,
part-time. no,
okay,
full-time.
all right, that's enough. I think we've all,
Your Honor, that
it's clear.
particular resume is a part of the complaint file that's already been
All
filed,
right.
the second resume.
All right,
Nothing further.
I would like to recall Ms. Vest for one question, please. I'll remind you, you're still under oath, Ms. Vest. Exhibit number 1. familiar with this?
Yes, sir.
All right. How did you first come into possession of this? And was this submitted along with his application?
I'm gonna have to tell you, I don't believe it was. Simply because at the top of it, it just say, the one that that one there, I have the one that I looked at had, A, Arkansas, some initials up at the top, sir. Unless that one's dated the 10th. Give me a second, let me look at this. This one is dated July the 25th, 2011, and it's got on the top of it that it came from Arkansas LEETA.
So the
That did not come in with the application.
So the Arkansas Law Enforcement Training Academy, it's your testimony that that government agency sent you a false certificate.
Sir, I'm going to say they sent the certificate.
With Mr. Pulliam's name on it.
Yes, sir.
That wasn't submitted by Mr. Pulliam. It was submitted by the Arkansas Law Enforcement Training Academy.
And that's who sent this
Do
email.
you have any
Yes.
explanation for how that could possibly happen?
Well, whenever we called it for the verification, they went ahead, they sent that. And.
But why would the- why would
They sent
the-
it because they're saying that is a false document because this roster says he did not attend the class that certificate said he attended.
But how did they have, well, I know this is a rhetorical question, but how does the agency that issues these certificates have a copy of a certificate that they didn't issue? Who gave it to them?
I don't know, sir. Not in Arkansas, I don't know.
Now, a follow-up, Your Honor. Is that a part of his application file that you're looking at, or is that a part of the complaint file?
This is part of this is the complaint file.
I ask you the application. Did he submit that with his application? I think your answer was no.
The answer is no.
And then as part of the
I'd have
investigation,
to-
they sent that to you.
Yes, sir. They sent it by email along with the roster to prove that he did not attend that class. And I'm taking that, they sent the same information to Post when they rescinded his certification for the same thing.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Vest.
Your Honor, can I say something, please?
Yes, you can, Mr. Pulliam.
Your Honor, all of the documents was an investigation through Alita and Tennessee Post. It was illegal for them. Why would I, and it's just off the record, why would I send a certificate during an investigation? And secondly, it came from an investigator. That did not come from me.
When was the first time you saw that certificate, Mr. Pulliam?
The first time I saw that certificate.
With your name on it, yes, sir.
Is when you saw that letter that the young lady wrote from Turl Police Department. That was the first time because I applied for a chief of police position. She went back in the back and pulled my dead file, what you call a dead file, from the old department before it restarted. And that's how all this circulated. That's how all this circumvented.
Well, who what is your best guess as to how this was created with your name on it?
That's what that's what I'm saying. Initially, there were criminal charges against me. Okay, Your Honor? The criminal charges was dismissed when I explained it to the judge. That came back when I worked at the Sunset Police Department, where you see on the roster that I have. The chief submitted it once I left Sunset going to Memphis Housing. Tennessee Post sent me a letter and said, hey, go ahead and challenge the post because you worked as an officer. They never said what. They said you worked as an officer with the Sun, saying we got verification. So the chief sent all my paperwork initially to my department.
Mr. Pulliam, I'm going to ask you one more time. We're all in agreement, I assume, that this certificate is false, correct?
Yes, we are.
All right. Now, how did this get prepared?
That's what
I'm asking you. What's your best guess as to how?
the chief of police, because if you look at the roster,
What,
and look
he
at the
has
date,
copies of blank certificates?
I don't. That's what I'm telling
All
you.
right.
It doesn't even look like a blank. I'm looking at it. It doesn't look like a blank. It looked like somebody stenciled that in there. That doesn't look like a blank. When I went to court and they dismissed the charge, I told them wholeheartedly, I didn't submit a post. I didn't submit it. They were going to send me to the full-time academy.
All right. I think I'm not sure if I can be any more confused here. Ms. Ryan, do you have any other proof you want to put on?
No, Your Honor, I do not.
Anything in closing you'd like to say?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Thank you. When Mr. Pulliam applied for his certification, he provided a resume. That resume says, education, 98 to 99, Arkansas Police Officer Certification, Arkansas Law Enforcement Training Academy. We have a statement from Arkansas saying, no, he did not attend in those period of time. He did not get a certificate, nothing. Mr. Pulliam said he didn't do this resume. Mr. Pulliam said that he only provided information for someone to type it. But then he submitted a subsequent resume in 2011 with the same information in it. He has not offered an explanation to why he would say that he has the education 1998 to 1999 Arkansas Police Officer Certification or has proven that he has that education. And what we have before us today is proof that he did not. And that he lied on his resume, lied on his certification. That goes together with the lies he put on the application itself when he said he wasn't a member of the military service when indeed he was. The bottom line is, his certification is only good if he has not provided misleading or false or fraudulent information in his application. And I would submit to the court today that is indeed what he has done. And we ask that his certification be withdrawn and that he be required to pay all the costs in this matter.
William, anything else you'd like to say?
Yes. In fact, I've been a police officer for years, off and on. As far as submitting my trainer's application, I did not submit a certificate with that. Only certificate that I submitted was the NRA, and that was it. And the letter from my dad stating that I had the experience with him. That's all that I know that is required to be a trainer, is the certification through the NRA or a big agency where you have been through instructor training. And all that I'm saying is I would resubmit my application and start all over, but I ask that it not be revoked.
Thank you, Mr. Pulliam. Thank you, Ms. Ryan. If there's nothing further, we'll stand adjourned. I'll make a decision as quickly as I can and send a copy of my order to both parties. Thank you, sir, Mr. Pulliam.